Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Muslim Street. This is your host, Hina Lotus. Today, we have a super exciting episode planned for everyone. We will be going over the writer and the director of the upcoming movie, The Beast We Carry. It's a really exciting project that's actually centered all around Islamophobia. If you want to introduce yourself, we'd be super humbled.
Hi, I'm Rishi Gandhi, and I'm the writer-director of The Beast We Carry, a short that is currently crowdfunding on Kickstarter.
Perfect. And do you want to tell us a little bit about like your education, what you do, your background, how
Yeah,
you became a director?
yeah, absolutely. I guess to start from the very beginning, I was born in the UK, grew up in Côte d'Ivoire, in Abidjan specifically, moved to New York at the age of 13, around 2000. Um, got into a private school, became a boarding student there, went to college at Fordham University, and then got a master's degree in media studies from the New School in Manhattan. And I guess the first thing I ever made was a schlocky zombie film with a bunch of my friends in college. And then I guess, I just kind of kept going from there, just getting jobs where I could just to learn production and I've just been at it kind of ever since. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And before we get started with the interview, just quick housekeeping. Again, you are tuning into the Muslim Street. We do have a website. It's www.themuslimstreet.com. We are looking for authors, journalists, writers, open submissions. Malik and I would love to see your talent. We're also on social media. If you haven't subscribed to our channel already, please do so because we do go live every Sunday at 7:30 to bring you exciting content like this. But that being said, on the Muslim Street, as everyone knows, we focus very heavily on Muslim oppression, Muslim issues, as well as Black liberation. I know that you coming on this show, those are very important topics for you. Do you kind of want to go into like how your work ties into the issues that the Muslim Street sort of focuses on?
Yeah. I would say, at least specifically for The Beast We Carry, while I myself, I am not Muslim, I have had to deal with Islamophobia in my life because of the way, obviously because of the way I look and because of my own personal background. Um, uh, especially, uh, Especially after 9/11 happened in New York, growing up as a kid, despite, it doesn't matter what my religion is at the end of the day. It's just, I look a certain way. So I am treated a certain way. And I remember just being a child and, no longer being treated like a child. It's like I was dealing with two New Yorks. There's the one everyone saw on the TV coming together post 9/11. Then there's the actual New York that I encountered, which, like I felt the way adults looked at me was different. The way I was treated was very different. A lot of the time in a lot of contexts, I never felt treated like a kid anymore um, compared to a lot of my peers. And yeah, it was so, in that sense, very directly, The Beast We Carry kind of addresses that particular particular thing of a child dealing with Islamophobia, especially in post 9/11 New York.
Yeah, no, and I love the fact that you're working on something that is applicable not just to Muslims, but a multitude of different groups who are affected by, post 9/11 and the way that minorities were treated. I remember, I was in high school, I think freshman year when it had occurred. And at the time, I was one of the only minorities in school, right? And so literally, I remember, like, I think I was in Spanish class. They have the footage of 9/11 going on, like when the planes are going into the World Trade Center, and literally everyone in my class was white. And the moment they start like reading the names, how like literally they had a list of all the names like an hour later, it was just like everyone just turns around and looks at me. And it wasn't just I who was being treated differently. The few Black individuals that we had, within our class were being treated differently. We had Hispanic people that were being discriminated against. I think for them, it was like anyone who is ethnic, is colored, isn't all American white, that was a target. So I'm glad that you're coming on this show to talk about your experience and how the projects that you're working on tie into that directly, because we have to understand that when it comes to xenophobia, when it comes to racism, when it comes to Islamophobia in general, when people are racist and ignorant. There's no other way to put it. They're not going to try to be politically correct when they're going to be hateful or commit a hate crime. They will literally just subjugate and oppress pretty much anyone who doesn't look like them. So this is like an issue that affects not just Muslims, but so many different people, across the board. And I did kind of want to get into the movie itself. In what ways is this addressing xenophobia and Islamophobia, and why is it such a central part of your current project?
That is a really damn good question. Um, so I would say the way it addresses all of this really comes down to the core concept of the story, right? Um, so the story is about a young boy. His name's Raju, and he's he's an immigrant kid going to school in a very white New York town, pre 9/11. And we set up that he had this mystical ability to essentially see the inner selves of people like manifested as creatures only he can see and interact with. So, in a way, he's a very empathetic kid. He's able to see what people are literally feeling or thinking at any point because their inner selves are literally manifested to the side of them, like acting these things out, right? So, and he has his own inner self who's like this gentle mime that's kind of like his ever-present companion that he interacts with. And what happens is post 9/11, the fear, the paranoia, and the hatred of the town, of his friends, of his neighbors, like, all those kind of like emotions that were in the air post 9/11 affect and change these, inner selves. So they become these inner beasts that are out for Raju's blood. He and the mime find themselves trapped in their high school as they're actively hunted down by these creatures. And like, yeah, it's a very visual like film, but it's also intensely metaphorical in terms of how it's addressing these things through the fiction of like a kid that can see these creatures. And it's also extremely like the way we're going about it is trying to make it extremely like close to the perspective of this kid so we can feel what this kid is going through.
No, I think that's amazing. And what was the catalyst, or like what inspired you to, start within the film industry? And, to take it a step further, let me just ask two questions in one. Why do you think art is so relevant and important when it comes to the concept of social justice as a whole? Because I do think art isn't something that people focus on when we talk about liberation and social justice and things like that.
I mean, if I'm being real, at the end of the day, I don't know that my movie is gonna like make a huge difference in changing the world. I think at the end of the day, that the stuff that really makes a huge difference in changing the world is people being the boots on the ground to like actually do things that'll help their friends and neighbors, that'll help their communities. Like when people are part of those things, and like on like the lowest level of it is like door knocking, right? On like another level, it's like making sure people are fed, making sure people are housed, making sure that people are safe, and not being crushed by a government that's out to snuff them out. I think those things make a bigger difference. But I think where art is important is that it gives us the ability to reconceptualize things. It gives us it gives us an opportunity to look at things from a different perspective that we never would have considered otherwise. And I think effective art has that capacity. So I think it alone is not enough. I think we need all those other things I mentioned, but I certainly do think it can play a role in catalyzing some of these other things.
Yeah, no, I think that makes complete sense. And, that being said, can you tell us about your previous projects and how they may have like inspired you or led you to the most recent project that you're currently working on? Just kind of like a brief history of other things you've done as well.
Okay. I mean, when I was early in my career, I did a lot of documentary, just because it was kind of like the easier thing to kind of pick up a camera, go do something, and I used it as a way to like improve my skills and learn better storytelling. And while I was actively being an editor, video editor in the industry, um, and then like my first kind of real attempt at doing a narrative short was the film Mater Mortis, uh, which was about familial loss within like a South Asian family, and essentially it was about like how South Asian men like are incapable of talking to each other in a healthy way, because it's like the mom, she falls ill. Her illness is that she's a zombie, and it follows the son's perspective as he struggles to communicate with his dad, who's also equally unable to like just use his words. And I know I'm laughing while saying it, but it is not a funny film by any means. But and I think just like kind of that intense focus on things that are real and things that affect us is kind of been my entryway into genre filmmaking. And I think that was kind of like the beginning of me eventually getting to something like the Beast We Carry. And the crazy part is over the course of making that short, I feel like it's become more relevant, especially with the bullshit we're dealing with in Los Angeles right now, with like ICE like raiding people's homes in the middle of the night, and like the National Guard being deployed and all this. And like granted, my new short's a period piece, but I don't know, it feels, to me at least, it feels relevant to the present moment.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I mean, if we're getting into like politics and current news, we have so much going on. We obviously have everything going on in Los Angeles. We have the ICE raids. We have everything going on
Palestine.
geopolitically. Yeah, Palestine is a big one. We have Palestine. We just had everything go on between like, India and Pakistan recently. We have, the Rohingyas. We have Sudan, which doesn't honestly get as much attention as it should. We have so many different like pieces, right? When it comes to the political world and like the current news and how it's affecting all of us. How would you say like your projects that you've done previously and the ones that you're working on right now, how does that tie into current news?
Um, I mean, I feel the Beast That We Carry in particular ties into like things that happen currently, mainly in that we're using like 2001 9/11 specifically as a way to kind of just show how people's perspective of just like treating other people just as like people can change, and how easily it changes, and how easily people are ready to let their fear drive them towards hatred and towards things that are simply not true about other people. Because I mean, it's something I experience. Like I just remember on a daily basis, like after the occupation of Iraq and after like Saddam Hussein was executed, like people would just say the most horrible, like vile things about Iraqi people in New York just because they watched something on Fox News where someone said that, and they're just reparroting it over and over because like as if it's the truth. When these are just people that are like, their sources of water were contaminated because the U.S. military decided to like blow it up, right? Um, and I don't know. I lost my train of thought there, but I mean, I think my most relevant piece to what's happening now is the Beast We Carry. I don't know so much that my previous things that I've done are quite as relevant in terms of like my short films, but at least for me, the Beast We Carry is the most relevant to what's happening today.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it's crazy because we see like all over social media, right? Blatantly, we see exactly what's going on in Palestine. We've seen footage of like what's going on with like other issues as well. But because I think MSM is so deeply like rooted and integrated in like so many different households, right? Like there's so many people who will turn on CNN or MSNBC or Fox and they'll just listen to whatever they're hearing, regardless of all the evidence that proves everything wrong that you see on Twitter, that you see on Instagram, that you see, even like on Snapchat. Like I remember there's a multitude of, people going through genocide that were posting exactly what was going on over there. And even though everything MSM is saying can be so easily refuted by direct evidence, at the end of the day, people are so heavily tied, some individuals, not all, and the Muslim Street is definitely trying to alleviate these issues per se with independent journalism. But that being prefaced, I think that MSM is so deeply rooted in so many different households that I think it falls onto people like us, honestly, to kind of show people what the truth is. Because at the end of the day, if you look at it as a system, right? A system, and this is what Malik taught me, so I don't want to, not give him credit, but a system that is built to oppress you will never give you the tools to liberate yourself. And
Yeah.
so we have to kind of take it into our own hands, define our truth, define, what we want to be considered, our stories, our, create these platforms and help people understand. And I think you're kind of coming in from like a very interesting perspective, because you are of like, a Hindu background, and yet you're coming in and like, creating this movie that has to do with Islamophobia, because even though you aren't Muslim in any capacity, you've still gone through very like similar experiences that a lot of Muslims did go through during that time. So, first and foremost, I want to applaud you for, taking the initiative to do a project like this. And, inshallah, you get all the funding you need. And, we have you back on when the movie's released, and you'll be in a totally different headspace, of course. But I think that being said, it brings me into my next question. Why do you think it's so important for minorities, regardless of religion and race, to have their own, let's say, media, podcast, journalism, to create their own movies, production companies?
Um, I mean, you can't wait for somebody else to just like build a thing for you, because you're gonna wait forever, and there's always strings attached. At the end of the day, like if you want to build something that you own, you may just have to do it on your own. You have to like find your community, you have to find your people, you have to find you have to build your own tribe, and kind of make it happen in a way. Because not for nothing, like look at how Hollywood is, man. Like you had people 1 second going and supporting Palestine, and then the next second like chickening out, like Mark Ruffalo back in, I think it was like 2021, when there were these attacks on Gaza, and like he spoke out on it, then he pulled back when he was about to lose his Disney job. And it's like, like that's it, like those, like that's who we're counting to build something with. No, like we have to do it for ourselves, because no one else is going to look out for us except us, right? um, and I don't know, it's, we also just have so much stuff still coming out of Hollywood that is so insanely racist and insanely stupid. And like, just last year, my partner and I went to a mystery movie Monday at a Regal theater, and we had no idea what we were going to watch. And it was like the most like militaristic, Islamophobic, like piece of shit, like special forces movie. And we were hate watching it the whole time. And like, we could have got up and left, but like, I spent my $5, god damn it, and I was gonna finish the damn thing. And I was just like, yeah, this is considered an indie film, right? And it was horrible. And I'm just like, this is the sort of stuff coming out. This is not the sort, and this is the sort of thing coming out that's like praising the military for like keeping us safe or whatever. But it's like the main villain ends up being like some Southeast Asian Muslim guy who just like chops a dude's head off, because that's apparently what Muslims in TV do. And I'm just like, yeah, I'm sorry, but this is not good enough. Like this is not the sort of thing we can build off of. We have to build our own like separate things. And the thing is, there's a history in independent cinema of people of color going off and building their own things separate from everything else. Um, and the thing is, we have to continue to build our own things outside of this, because at the end, and also just not sell out, because at the end of the day, like when we start making money, the big, like all the big corporations are going to come and try and take it away from us, and they're going to come try to like feed it all into AI, right? So we can't let that happen. We have to fight for ourselves and build our own thing.
No, I agree. And to be candid, I didn't understand the importance of it to the magnitude that I do now until I really got involved with the Muslim Street, when Malik asked me to help him co-host this. And we started like bringing different guests on. It isn't even so much about Malik and I at the end of the day. We just interview people and we may like give our opinions, but we've platformed so many different people from around the world with different perspectives. And then you sit down and you listen to their stories, their narratives, their perspectives, their opinions, their expertise. And you're like, wow, had this individual never come on, I myself would have never like understood and conceptualized how much oppression there is in the world, or how much like subjugation there is, or how much like propaganda we have, over in the West. And so I think like at the end of the day, if we want to find the truth, we have to kind of look for it ourselves. And I know this is a very hot topic and everyone's talking about it we can't talk about it enough on the Muslim street. What are your thoughts with everything going on with Palestine?
Um, it's a fucking genocide. Uh, yeah, like just we can't rely on the American government to do the right thing. It doesn't matter which party it is. Um, I don't know. Bernie showed his ass, and so did AOC. They ain't the real deal. Um, and yeah, like if Palestine is not free, none of us are free. I think
No,
I think
I
that's
agree.
that about sums up my thoughts about it. I think it's the most important moral moment of our time.
Why do you think different communities aren't talking about it enough? Because I know for myself, I feel like when a majority of Muslims talk about, Palestine, they'll say, well, this is a Muslim issue. So whenever I see people from different communities, the Sikh community, the Hindu community, the Christian community, even the Jewish community, there's a multitude of anti-Zionists within even like, the Jewish community. When they speak out, I think people like actually listen, as terrible as it sounds. I think even Black liberation to a certain degree works that way. I think, when Black individuals talk about Black liberation, it shouldn't be this way, but it's not taken as seriously as when, people who are benefiting from the system, like let's say white individuals come out and say, no, I genuinely think that Black people are marginalized. They've gone through so much from, slavery up until now, and we need to give them reparations. And so I think you being a non-Muslim talking about Palestine, I hate saying it, but unfortunately, in the grand scheme of things, carries so much more weight than even an individual like I. And I think even when it comes to Palestine as a whole, when Palestinians talk about it, I think it doesn't, like, for some reason people say, well, of course they're going to, speak out and say free Palestine because they're the ones that are suffering as a byproduct of the system. But when non-Palestinians, non-Arabs come out and say, this is wrong, this is unethical, this is a genocide, we have to stand against these governments, it just carries so much further. I think that's why individuals like Norman Finkelstein, I think when he will, platform and talk about how Israel is, this genocidal entity, Palestinians are going through apartheid, people listen because that's an individual that would technically be benefiting, from the system. And that actually, I wanted to segue into something else. I think even with what's going on in like India and Pakistan, do you have any thoughts with, current events with, I guess Modi's regime in India as well?
At the risk of being banned from the family WhatsApp, Modi's a fascist. I don't like him. I feel like India is so down like the darkest path possible right now. And I hate to admit it, but I'm also shamefully undereducated in terms of like Pakistan's internal politics myself. That I don't feel qualified enough to comment on the Pakistan side of things specifically. Um, but I think India has like gone down an extremely dark path, and I have a lot. I have a good amount of family members that will just not talk politics because they just know if they say something, they'll probably get beat up or shot on the street. Um, and I know I have a lot of family members that are extremely pro Modi, and probably used to walk into his office when he was like governor of Gujarat back in the day. Um, and yeah, like it's so normalized uh, to be anti-Muslim and to look at Muslims with fear in India, which is crazy to me because I also know plenty of South Asian Muslims that hold something in their hearts for like certain old traditions, like that would be kind of Hindu in a way, not because they're Hindu themselves, but because it's part of the broader culture. And there's this kind of like acceptance and flow of like, yeah, we are this one thing that's like this bigger like Muslim thing, but we're still Indian, or we're still uh, Bangladeshi, or whatever, but we still feel a part of that. And but like it's hard to meet other Hindus that also hold that truth of like these are still our brothers and sisters, even if their religion is different, and even if they're part of this other thing that's still a little separate from us, we're still a part of the same thing. Um, and I forgot where I was going with that thought, but uh, yeah, I don't know. It just for me right now, it feels like India's gone down an extremely dark path, and I don't see how it's going to end well unless like there's some serious like regime change that happens and some serious consideration of how to change like the media landscape, of how to change how people think about each other. Um, and then also just like my heart goes out to all my friends that are Kashmiri. It's just like they're getting a really, really rotten deal out of this whole situation. Um, like no one, like neither, at least to my knowledge, neither Indian or Pakistan seem to want to
No,
just
I
let them
agree
lead.
with that. Like someone can say India is significantly worse in the situation. As someone that's half Indian, half Pakistani, I do feel that way. But is Pakistan completely innocent when it comes to Kashmir? No, absolutely not. I think both have played a very like terrible role as to what's going on. And I think the interesting thing is, India is considered it's kind of it's a very similar situation to Israel. I don't want to say it's completely the same, by no means is it. Well, it's similar in the sense that, how they say Israel is the biggest democracy in the Middle East, but it's like, if it's a democracy, then why is there an entire genocide going on? Why has there been a genocide going on for 75 years
Why are
or
there
over
second
75
class
years?
citizens?
Yeah, exactly. Like, why are Palestinians second class citizens that don't have the same rights, that are not able to, have the same entities, the same, human rights, the same exports, imports, like, I mean, the list goes on and on, access to education, access to healthcare, as Israelis do,
I
right?
mean, even within Israeli society, there's a segregation amongst like the actual Israelis based on their actual like ethnic background as well. That's
Yes.
something that's also not really talked about. I'm like, yeah, talk about South Africa on like steroids right now. Like even amongst themselves, the Israelis segregate themselves.
Yeah. And I think the interesting thing about Israel in that sense as well is a lot of people don't know this. There's a multitude of Ethiopian Jews who went over to Israel and they were forced to actually be sterilized, like against their will. And that's actually part of what, you and I are discussing. There's like, when people say, oh, like Zionism is white supremacy and X, Y, and Z, it's a lot deeper than, oh, Arabs versus, Israelis, right? It actually, or like Palestinians against Israelis. There is an entire like caste system, like literally a caste system or like a racial hierarchy, even within Israelis. Because I know Ashkenazi Jews, which are indigenous to Europe, are treated very differently than the ones who are, the Jewish people that descend from like Mediterranean areas, as well as the ones who are like Arab Jews, right, who came directly from that region. And the comparison that I guess I was trying to make is in India, it's called the biggest, democracy or whatever, I think in the world, if I'm not mistaken, because of the population over there. Um, and it's secular, right? In theory. But with the subjugation you see not just with Muslims, but you see it with Sikhs. The Sikh community, they go after very, very hard. Especially with like Operation Blue Star and everything that happened in 1984 onwards. We had also like the farmers' protests. We had CAA laws, which actually affected Muslims. From my understanding, Christians are subjugated too. They burn like churches and stuff all the time. And this is like directly, the government of India. But one thing that isn't discussed enough, in my opinion, is even the way that Dalits are treated. So Dalits are like the term for, it used to be called in the caste system untouchables. Now, I guess to be more politically correct, they're called Dalits. But lower castes are treated like just terribly in India. And that's actually something that I wish more people advocated for, right? Not just Hindus or Indians, but I mean, I think Muslims, Sikhs, non-Indians should be speaking about this as well. The way these individuals are treated, I think is just it hurts my heart. And that's why for me, even if we can hypothetically have a conversation and say, well, India did this or this right or this wrong, or Pakistan did X, Y, and Z wrong or right. I can't ever really be a nationalist in any capacity or like a patriot to like any country. And the reason for that is because at the end of the day, once you are patriotic to a country, you're basically saying, regardless of what the government does, right? Whether it's ethical, unethical, I stand by them. I think
Yeah.
as human beings, right? Like we should have our like allegiance or loyalty to like human rights and ethics, and that isn't tied to a government. I don't really care about politicians. I really don't, because in my opinion, if America is like for us, by us, what are the politicians doing that's benefiting us? If anything, it's like our taxpayer money, our labor, everything that we're doing that's like benefiting them. So I'm glad that, you can openly speak about these things, because I have very, very, similar sentiments. And that's what, why it comes down to having like our own platforms and to be able to have discussions like the ones we're having right now. Because I'm pretty sure if I even tried to say an ounce of this on Fox, I'd probably be sent to Guantanamo Bay. Let's just be candid.
Yeah.
Um, but I think that being said, I also kind of wanted to go into call to action per se. So there's a multitude of people from all different backgrounds watching. We have Muslims and non-Muslims alike. We have people that work in media that aren't in media. How do you think people can get involved if they want to contribute to social justice, to the various different genocides and political issues that we've been talking about?
Man, where to begin? That is a huge question. I mean, I think I think it's always good to go to a protest because sometimes that's a really great way to meet people that are aligned and maybe more connected with ways of helping. Um, I think sometimes social media is helpful. I don't know it's always helpful. But at least in my case in 2020, like while we were all in COVID and like we just could not leave, like that ended up being a really great way to connect with all sorts of people. Um, so I mean, I don't know, man. Like I would just say the easiest thing is just to see what's happening locally around you and try to get tied in as much as possible. And uh, you know, at least in my case, it's you gotta go beyond electoral politics. Like, most people say like the only way to like kind of get through is through voting, but when you have two parties that are both pro genocide, essentially, what's the fucking point, right? And especially when you have Democrats barely doing anything to stop ICE. I mean, for fuck's sake, ICE got really big because of fucking Barack Obama, right? And now it's like literally
And people
Gestapo at
people
every.
don't talk about that enough.
Yeah,
Everyone's always like,
they
"Oh, I miss when Obama was president." I'm just like, he's the one who set the precedence
listen, man.
to
Just
a lot of
because the
things you
dude
see right now.
Yeah, just because the dude had a little bit of swag, people like kind of let him get away with fucking bombing the shit out of brown people overseas, right? Like, like every president, it was like, look, every U.S. president has overseen like a genocide, right? Like, but we shouldn't be letting people get away with that, and we shouldn't be idolizing these people because like this office is there to kill. That is what it is there for. That is all it does is kill and like keep feeding this war machine that's just out there to kill and pollute the world and destroy the world. Like that's all it is at this point. Like the American military is the biggest polluter in the world. Like what else is there? It's polluting shit, it's destroying shit. We have a million bases and for what?
And then
Like
they'll like
we're
make commercials like make sure to turn off your lights to, make sure you're not wasting electricity.
yeah,
It's like
yeah.
I'm not
And
undermining that, but it's like how many times can I turn off the lights and like, keep my electricity to a bare minimum when I live in Florida where like the
yeah.
AC is like going on
I
24/7?
mean,
How
and
much
then
can I
we
contribute when literally they're bombing like half of the world to
yeah,
smithereens?
I
Our
mean,
taxpayer money.
and then we also just have Europe that's like talking about how they're the sole beacon of democracy, and yet they're doing everything in their power to make World War III happen. like it's like they're moving the clock closer to midnight by not trying to address the actual things their citizens want them to address. Like I don't know, like instead of pulling back on social services, like why can't you put more of that back in? Why do you have to like feed your militaries and like make them bigger? Like is
Well,
Russia really
they
going
don't
to
even
try
take
to
care of
conquer the rest of
veterans.
Europe?
I feel like at the end of the day, they're like, so like, oh, we support the military, 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 military. They don't support the military in terms of like, even like giving them like healthcare and all that. Like, I think like so many of them are like homeless. So many of them are like suffering from PTSD and issues like that. And like, our taxpayer money doesn't even go to like take care of them in any capacity. I think they're literally just used as like tools, right? Like the military is just used as tools. And I think for them, it's even like favorable if they like aren't in a position to where they can like utilize their benefits or anything of that nature, because it saves the government so much money. A lot of people don't understand that. Like,
No.
they'll ask local businesses to like give them, like, oh, give them a 5-10% discount, we have to support our troops, this that. Why are local businesses responsible for like giving back to them when it should be like the government? But that's the whole
Yeah.
thing. Like our taxpayer money doesn't go into taking care of any like individual, right? It just goes into like helping Raytheon. It goes into helping like, the military industrial complex. It goes into marginalizing, hurting, and destroying like, all these like various different countries and the global south all over the world. And it's the blood. A lot of people don't understand this. The blood is ultimately on our hands because it is
Yeah.
our taxpayer money, and I think a lot of people don't even understand, like going back to Israel, they have like, it's weird that so many Americans are like, oh, I hate socialism, I hate socialism, I hate, communism, whatnot, right? But then it's like they know the fact that Israel has like free education, free healthcare, they give out like free housing.
That's our
it,
money. That's our taxpayer
yeah,
money.
yeah,
Instead of us getting
exactly.
that,
And I'm
it's
just
going to
like,
a
so
foreign
why is it
nation.
okay for taxpayer money to give someone else free healthcare? But like, if you live in the United States, your own money can't go into your healthcare. Now you're subsidizing someone else's healthcare that is like committing genocide, right? It's a colonial entity, but you're gonna have to pay thousands of dollars because hey, Aetna decided that you really don't need to like, you really don't need chemo for cancer. It's just not a thing. The insurance gets to decide that, not your doctor. Like that's a really weird system. And yet Americans will say, "Hey, we're the first world." I've never understood that. I've
I
never understood.
mean, we could be the first world if every one of us became a fucking Luigi. I'm just saying. I'm just saying we need like there are more of us that could be Luigis than there are of them at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Like they can't stop a million Luigis.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I think people are so afraid to get into like revolutionary politics. And you know what I think the problem is? It's neoliberalism, right? It's kind of like what you're talking about. People are just like, no, no, we just need to get Trump out of office and we just need like AOC or Bernie or, whoever, right? And once we have them in office, everything is going to change. And it's just not because let's think about it logically. If AOC and Bernie were conducive and benefiting everyday people like you and I, they wouldn't have made it as far as they have. Right. Like, and I think that's what a lot of people don't understand. If a politician makes it as far as they do to the point where they're like a recognized household name, they wouldn't have made it that far if they were not, leverage per se for the government and for the corporations. If you're not pro corporations, if you're not pro government, if you're not pro military industrial complex, if you're not a liberal Zionist per se or a conservative one, depending on what spectrum you're on within the government, you're not going to make it that far.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of people will like, and we as, like I'm half Indian, you're Indian, you see it too, where people are just like, oh, we have, this Indian person running or, whatever. Identity politics isn't going to get us anywhere, right? Like
I
Bobby
mean, look at
Jindal.
Rishi Sunak, Bobby Jindal.
Yeah, I was just
Um,
about to say, like, Bobby Jindal doesn't care about you and I. He just cares about getting a paycheck. But a lot of people see, and be like, oh, there's a DC in the White House. We need to like vote for this person. Or like Kamala Harris. You know what really irked me about her? Like, because we're both South Asians. It was weird because this, like, I feel like when she became vice president, she really like honed in on that like South Asian, like, oh, chutney and masala in the White House. And then when she was like basically, running against Trump or whatever, she just totally changed it up and she's like, hey, like I can hang with black people and let me have this like concert and people are twerking and this and that. And I'm just like, that's campaign money that you're putting into like all this stuff, right? That people really don't care about. It's not going to feed anyone, right? But like at the end of the day, that's what they spent all their money on. And there's a multitude of neoliberal South Asians, black people, all these minorities that were like, we need to vote for her because if we don't vote for her, like America is going to be taken over by like crazy fascists. And I'm just like, what makes you think she's not part of the problem? Like everything that's gone on under Biden, you know what I mean? She repeatedly said nothing is going to change under her. So I don't know why people fall for this whole like, oh, we need an ethnic person, we need someone more desi or we need someone more hood and like, the White House or whatever. Obama is like a great example of that. I think he was absolutely terrible. I think in my opinion, he's worse than even like Trump and Bush in a way. And the reason I say that is because neoliberals will hide their politics, right? Like they're going to pretend to be the good guys. I love Republicans for one reason, not because of anything they do. They're terrible. I'm not advocating for them, but they will tell you what their agenda is. Like Trump will literally come on and be like, I support the patriarchy. I hate poor people. I hate minorities. I'm pro genocide. Like nothing that I'm going to do is going to benefit the little guy. And he will blatantly just be like, hey, look, I'm evil. Democrats pretend to be our friends, and that's way more dangerous in my opinion. So
Yeah, I have nothing to add. A plus, perfect.
yeah. And then, going back to like call to action. Sorry, I had to kind of like wind, that down. But that being said, back to call to action. Now, tell us about your current project in the sense of like how viewers and people watching this can help you.
Thank you for asking that. So the most direct way to help me get this short film happening is to donate money to the Kickstarter for the Beasts We Carry. So if you literally just go on Kickstarter, you type in "The Beasts We Carry," you will see the project. You'll be able to see a little video of me pitching the project. There's a whole bunch. There's entire paragraphs about the team, about why now, why this project. Even I talk about our different levels. We're trying to raise 30K as our minimal number. 30K is what will pass. What will is the passing number for this campaign. So if we hit 30K, people, and we're at the end of it, and it's 30K or past that, the campaign's a success. But we have two stretch goals. One for 45K, which would actually pay for the whole production. And the reason why I say pay for the production is because, I've been working in the film industry for a long time. It is a feast or famine industry. I want to be able to actually pay my collaborators, whether they're the actors or, the crew, everybody that's working there. Like, we may have to rent certain types of equipment to achieve things. Also, there are costs associated with a location. And kind of our soup to nuts number, which is the final stretch goal, which is what I really hope we get, is 60K. 60K means, we will be able to pay for parts of post-production, which is really, really important for actually finishing the film. We will be able to pay for the film festival fees and for travel fees so that myself and whoever from the producing team can go with me can actually go to film festivals and advocate for the film. And hopefully anything beyond that will cover any unforeseen costs, right? Anything past 60K would be, because there's always something that you didn't anticipate that you got to cover for. Sometimes it's literally a location's like, hey, we want more money, and you just have to grease the wheel and to keep it moving forward. Sometimes it's, hey, like the motel you were gonna like make a deal with, like they're like, hey, sorry, XYZ happened, the cost is now different. And anything beyond that is just, we're doing all of this so we can get to a feature version of this. And but first, in order to get there, we have to create a short that shows this vision and makes it really compelling. And I am very much about working with other artists that are really good at what they do, because it doesn't matter what's in my head at the end of the day. It matters that I'm able to create the thing that's in front of us. And it takes a team, it takes a community of artists to work together to make that thing happen. And I want to make sure I have the budget to pay for it. I want to make sure that people aren't killing themselves doing this. I want to make sure I have production insurance so that, if something happens, like, people are covered, right? So yeah, just please go to the Beast We Carry on Kickstarter and throw us some change. Please and thank you.
Yeah. And is there any other way that people can help as well? Like if they're not able to contribute, like monetarily speaking?
Yeah, absolutely. The other major way you can do it is just talk to your friends and family about the project. Like, take a look at it on the Kickstarter. Think about people who really love horror films, who really love horror films that have a message, right? People that would love the subject matter of this thing, and share it with them and encourage them to back it, and to back it soon. Unfortunately, one of the hardest things about crowdfunding campaigns is they're time limited. And sometimes people won't back unless they see other people backing. So the sooner someone backs, people feel, oh, this project still has legs, it's still alive, it could probably happen, let me back now. So yeah, like, if you don't have the money, that's okay. But if you can at least think of two other people in your network that would love this sort of project, like, give it to them and tell them, hey, just put money into this thing, it's great. Toss them like $100, something. Like, make it happen. Let's make something that no one has ever seen. Like, Hollywood is not going to come and make this movie. It's just not going to happen.
It would be like the inverse of it, to be honest, where it'd be like, this is why Islam is terrible, right? So I
Yeah,
agree with what you're saying.
yeah, basically. I mean, it would basically be like, oh, let's like have a little kid that creates monsters that kills brown people or some shit like that. Like,
But
I
that
don't know.
monster is the hero in Hollywood. That's the problem.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
basically. And but in the case of this film, uh, yeah, I mean, it really takes a community to make this film happen at all. Like, which is why I'm going to crowdfunding. Um, and this is probably the biggest way forward is to find that audience and to find the people that are willing to help me make the short happen, so I can eventually make a feature happen.
No, that's amazing. And if people want to contact you, do you mind like telling us your social media handles, your email address, just in case they want to donate money, collaborate, reach out to you if they have questions, if they want to interview you?
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah. So I'm on Instagram at Senor Rish. So that's SENOR_RISH. I'm also on Blue Sky at it's a really long handle because Blue Sky has long handles. I think it's rishjg.bssky.socials. I think it'll be in the show notes. And I'm also RJG_film on TikTok. So those are the easiest places to find me. And if you want to donate to the project directly, of course the Kickstarter is actively happening right now. And yeah, like if you want to donate at a different point, you can also reach out to me one-on-one on any of the previously mentioned platforms.
Perfect. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you. For anyone tuning in a little bit later, this is Tina Lotus from the Muslim Street. Wanted to kind of throw out our socials as well. We are active on Instagram. We are on Twitter. I'm on Twitter as well. I'm going to go ahead and spell that out for you. It's INTREPIDLOTUS. That's probably the most active platform that I use. And then we also have a website. It's www.themuslimstreet.com. We are actively looking for writers, journalists, just anyone that wants to publish a piece that has anything to do with Islam or, politics, social justice. I'm actually working with an individual right now to kind of get like a health portion going, which I think will be phenomenal. But we're basically, Muslim journalism for Muslims by Muslims. We've kind of created this safe little space for Muslims to be able to talk, be intellectual, talk about the things we're not able to within MSM. And it's just kind of a way for us to collaborate and work with each other and, kind of push the narrative that is the truth. And the truth is that, Muslims, we are just looking for a safe space to, to pray, to understand each other, to help each other, to make social justice like, the pinnacle of like what we stand for. And I think to be able to talk about issues like Sudan, to be able to talk about Palestine, to be able to talk about the Rohingyas, Kashmir, I mean, the list goes on and on. I think to be able to cultivate that on our platform is super important. So if you're interested in me interviewing someone, Malik interviewing someone, if you're interested in writing an article for us, if you want to be featured, on the podcast, please reach out to us. We would love to hear from you. And then I'm going to throw in my email address as well. If you'd like to collaborate with us, it's themuslimstreetjournalist@gmail.com. But that being said, please catch us next Sunday. We will be here again, 7:30 Eastern Standard Time sharp, bringing you new content. And as I'm sure you guys kind of saw in this conversation, I see all the people kind of commenting. We are growing. We will continue to grow. So please subscribe, like, and comment. We love you so much. Salam and have a great night.